everybody, it's Edie and I am here today to show you a project that I have been working on for several months now. This is Elphaba and she is a 3-foot tall mixed media art doll that was inspired by the play Wicked, and it took me about 2.5 months to complete her. And I had a video of the entire process, and it was just hours and hours and hours and hours of video, and I really did not want to have to sit and edit about 48 hours of non-stop video. So I scrapped all of that and decided to just do a walkthrough video explaining what I did and how I made her and what some of her pieces are made from. So like I said, she's about 3 foot tall. She's about an inch, about 3/4 of an inch shy of being 3 foot tall. And she is made from a wire armature with... So let's talk a little bit about how she's made. I started with a wire armature and I covered her body. You can see she's actually very thin. She's got a cape hanging behind. I covered her body with aluminum foil and then paper clayed over the top of the aluminum foil, and her base actually comes out right here. You can't really see it, but she comes out all the way down to here. That's her actual base. That's the actual paper clay part. And then her arms are just wire armature, no aluminum foil, with just the paper clay over it. And then her face is also hand sculpted paper clay, and her eyes are separate paper clay pieces that I created and then inset into her face. I painted her with about 3 shades of green and also a slightly yellow green for some highlights. Her lips are brown and her eyes... Her lips are brown? Her lips are a deep purple and her eyes are brown. Her hair is made from individual little sections of wool roving that I created and then painstakingly glued on. I started at the base, then came up, and then did the sides of her hair. So this is probably about 50 little sections of wool roving. Her hat is also handmade. You can see it's got the little flip here on the side, and it's got lace trim. Not sure if you can really see. Yeah. So it's got lace trim along the top of it and then ribbon along the bottom. And her hat actually started as cardstock, and then I stitched black silky fabric to fit over the cone of the hat. So this is hand stitched, and then I created the base also out of wire, and then wrapped the wire with fabric, shaped it, and then attached the brim of the hat to the cone of the hat, and then attached it to her head. Her dress is all hand stitched. Her sleeves are solid black lace with a little cuff at the top, and then she's got a lace collar here that hangs down the back. It actually turns into her cape. And then her dress is individual little patchwork pieces that were attached one at a time, and then a lace overlay on a few of the places. And it goes all the way around. I'm going to try and get around here to the back of her. Actually, I'm going to turn her around and show you the back. Okay, here she is from the back. You can see her hair is very thick, and it goes all the way down almost to her butt. And then when you lift up her cape, you can see that her dress is the patchwork and lace overlay all the way down. And then you can see where the base of the wall starts right here. And this is black silk fabric. I'm going to scan out so you can see. And it covers the entire back of the doll. And this is not silky, satiny. Sorry, this is satiny fabric. The hat and the back part here are made with the same satiny fabric. So now I want to turn her back around to the front and continue showing you the front of her dress. Now I want to tell you about how the base of the doll is built. So when you come down here, you'll notice at the bottom of her dress, she's got a little piece of black lace and then a purple ruffle here. And that leads you into the wall of the doll. And I'm going to turn her a little bit and show you that she's actually got quite a bit of a concave. She actually curves quite a bit. And then all of the pieces sit inside this hollowed out pumpkin shape of her dress. So let me turn her back around to the front. So what I did was create an enormous wire armature. So I have a wire circle here. It's covered in ribbon now, but you can see the circle there. That's all twisted wire. And then I brought rungs of wire. And I have photos of all of this, and I'll be adding the photos to the end of the video so that you can see the process and how it was made. But I have these wire strips coming up all through the backside of the doll, and it actually looked similar to a wire pumpkin. I covered the wires with masking tape. I then covered the masking tape with spackle, and then I covered the spackle with more masking tape before painting it. I painted the inside with 3 shades of green, the same greens that I used on her face, I used on the inside of the dress, and then I stamped with a steampunk stamp. Let me see if I can get a good close-up view. That's a steampunk stamp. Whoops, going out of focus. There we go. I stamped that all over the background, and I also added chipboard, gears, and a clock. Now this clock is actually free hanging, so it moves. The gears are all glued into place, so so they don't move. They are actually glued on, and they are flush with the back of the dress. But this clock is free hanging. It's actually stitched into place. Once I painted the entire inside and stamped it and added all of the embellishments, I added the back cover of her dress and this little piece of black lace that comes right across the front of her dress. It also goes all the way around the entire front on both sides. So you'll see it comes around on both sides here. And there's black ribbon that goes just on the inside. All of this is black ribbon. You can see the 2 different pieces here. That's the lace and that's the ribbon. And it comes all the way around. This black ribbon then wraps around the wire to conceal it and then comes back up on the other side. And then her dress also comes up on the inside of the wall here for about 1 inch. And then there's ribbon on that as well to hide any rough edges. So it's all finished and it's all very clean looking. No jagged lines and no frayed edges. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about what's on the inside. Now I want to talk about the inside of the dress a little bit more. I've come down lower so that you can see at eye level what everything looks like, and also so you can look up inside the top of the dress. You'll notice there's a light here because it is so caved in. The light doesn't tend to shine on everything, and I want it all to be very noticeable. So the light does actually work, and then it shines inside. It's daylight right now, so you can't really tell what it looks like, but the light does shine inside the dress. And when you're standing, I'm going to stand up so it's going to get wobbly. When you're standing up, you can't see the light. It's only when you're down below and look up inside that you can actually see the light shining down. But it does actually work. It lights up and puts a spotlight on all of the items that are inside the dress. You'll notice that there's a little flying monkey hanging here. I'm going to try and get my hand behind him so you can see him better. He's actually stitched into the dress itself. He's stitched in 2 different places. And he is a hand-sculpted polymer clay and paper clay monkey. So his head is polymer clay, and he's got little wires for hair hanging in there. And then his body is actually paper clay. His clothes are all cloth, and he's got a purple ruffle that matches the purple ruffle on the dress. And then this fabric on his jacket is also some of the patchwork that's inside the dress. And he's got a little tail. It's not a monkey tail, a tail on his jacket. It's like a coat with tails. And then he's got this little yellow vest on with some painted on buttons and details. His ears, that's all polymer clay. His eyes are individually made and then inset into his face. And he's got little plastic wings that I actually stole from one of my son's old toys. But they are glued right on to his body. So they are, there we go. They are a part of him. He is a flying monkey. And he dangles a little bit, but he doesn't really turn because he is stitched in 2 different places. So I want to place my camera on the tripod again and talk to you about each one of these individual items just a little bit. Now I want to tell you more about the items that are inside the dress here. This is a green glass vial, and it actually started as a plain clear glass bottle, and I created my own green liquid in here. It's actually a few colors of paint and Pearl-Ex and all kinds of different stuff in here, and it's still not completely dry. It's been in here for several weeks now and it's still not completely dry, so you'll notice that there is liquid inside here. And then I painted the outside of the clear glass bottle with several layers of green sage Adirondack ink. It's alcohol ink mixed with glossy accents, and I painted that on the outside. It's got regular golden fluid acrylics, green gold mixed in with this paint, and possibly some glitter. I don't even remember. Pearl-Ex powder. So it's my own concoction of green paint on here. And then I took some glue and freehanded some swirls on here and sprinkled on quite a bit of green glitter. I did the same thing to the lid, and I'll tell you about that in just a second, but it was the same green glitter, and it's this really bright Christmassy green, and it was just way too gaudy and too vivid. So then I took some more of that alcohol ink by itself and ran it over all of the glitter places and got some really great drippage and a bit more of a grungy look on the outside. I also printed the words Green Elixir in some really cool text and tore it off, and then adhered that on with some gel medium and went over all of that with some distress ink and also more of the same paint glaze that I used on the outside of the bottle. The lid was a clear glass ball as well. I completely covered that in glue, dipped it into that bright Christmassy green glitter, and then went back over it as well with some of the plain alcohol ink just dripped on there, and then some of the glaze that I used on here. I really coated that really well, and it's now got this mottled look. You can see some spots of lighter green and darker green and almost an olive green, so it gave me this really cool texture that I was really happy with. The next thing I want to talk about are the slippers, and it's actually a pair, but I'm only going to hold up one to talk about. These, you'll know, it's the Wicked doll, and I know you're probably wondering why these aren't red if it's supposed to be the Wicked Witch of the West. The shoes in Wicked are the same shoes from the Wizard of Oz from the book. In the book, they are silver shoes, and in the movie, The Wizard of Oz, they made them ruby shoes. They change color in the light. They look different in the light, and that's what it is. So these are actually silver shoes like they are in the play. So what I did was completely covered these little clear plastic cake toppers. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, they're clear plastic cake toppers, and I doused them in glue and then completely submerged them in this silvery iridescent extra fine glitter that I have. And these things, when the light hits them, they will blind you. They are so glittery and sparkly and outrageous. And like I said, I have pictures of everything being made. I have pictures of the step-by-step process, and it was on video. It just took way too long to edit all of that video. So I will post all of the pictures at the end of this video. Now I want to talk to you about the grimoire, and this is the Wicked Witch's Spellbook. Now this grimoire is actually a little wooden block, and it started out as a wood-mounted stamp. It was a rubber wood-mounted stamp, and I've now got glitter on it from the shoes. So it was a wood-mounted stamp. I removed the stamp, and I also removed the sticker showing what the stamp is. I then covered the entire little wooden block with tissue paper, so you can see that texture in there. That is tissue paper, and please excuse the glitter, that's not supposed to be on there. I'll have to brush that off later. So it's completely covered in tissue paper, and then I went over the tissue paper with several colors and shades of brown paint, and you know, there's some sponging in there and some removing of paint, and just different layers and colors to get that leathery look. I then took gold paint, iridescent gold paint, and I freehanded all of the little stitching. I also painted the pages into place, and I did the 3 little marks on the binding here. I wrote the word Grimmery. This is also in the gold iridescent paint. I wrote the word Grimmery, but it was just too pretty and perfect, so then I kind of took my finger and pressed and smudged just a little bit so that it does still say Grimmery, but it's really hard to read now because it's a witch's spell book. You're not supposed to be able to tell what it is right away. And that is how I made the spell book. Last but not least, I want to talk about the crystal ball. This started out as a plain wooden candle holder, just a brown wood candle holder. And it was for a pillar candle, so it had one of those metal stems sticking up in the top, and you're supposed to set your pillar candle on top and it goes into the candle. So I took some pliers and pulled out that metal stem, and I painted the entire candle holder with black acrylic paint. This ball here is actually a clear glass Christmas ball, and I tried several different techniques. I tried to swirl the alcohol ink on the inside, I tried to put paint on the inside, and nothing seemed to work. So what I ended up doing was painting the outside. I used some more of that homemade alcohol ink with the glossy accents on the outside. There's alcohol ink, there's Pearl X powder, there's a little bit of golden fluid acrylics, green gold. There's about 6 different colors of paint on here, and it's all glossy and shiny so that the ball really shines. Then I also took some alcohol ink and drizzled it. Oh, I'm out of focus. I also took some sage alcohol ink and drizzled it on the inside so that there's stuff on the inside, there's stuff on the outside, and it really gives that eerie green crystal ball look. And then this little piece right here, I turned it around to the back so you can see. This is actually an earring. It's an old funky 80s style hoop earring that was already a hoop, so I just clamped it together, made sure that it was completely touching, and crimped it with some pliers, and then glued it into place, and then glued the crystal ball on top of the earring. And that's how I made the crystal ball. I can't remember if I said or not, but I just wanted to say really quickly that these large gear shapes here, these are all chipboard that I painted with about 3 layers of acrylic paint. They're also embossed, and then I took my finger and went over the embossing with even more paint to give them the look of realistic grungy gears. And then the same treatment was applied to the clock here. This is also a piece of chipboard that was painted black and then embossed and then painted over again. So each of these large gears here and the clock face have about 6 layers of paint and embossing powder and more paint and stuff on them to give them that grungy look. I wanted to tell you a little bit about her broom. This is hand bound by me, and it's made in the same way that a traditional witch's broom is made. So I took a tree branch here, and I took off any extra little pieces that were sticking off, and I carved the end of the branch into a point so it looks similar to an arrow. Then I had an old witch's broom, one of those old cinnamon smelling brooms that was falling apart, so I took several of the bristles from that cinnamon witch's broom and cut them to size. Then I bound them with my twine here, and after it was bound, I pressed my stick. I put glue on the stick, and then I pressed my stick into place. So this is made just like a traditional witch's broom, and I made it myself. And there you have it. That is the making of Elphaba. She is actually going to be for sale, so if you're interested in purchasing her, you can message me on Facebook, or you can leave a comment here on the YouTube video or leave a comment on my blog, and I will get my email address to you so that we can talk about it. If you have any questions about how she was made or any of the processes that I used, feel free to leave a comment or send me a message, and I will do my best to answer any questions that you have. I hope you like this project. I am so very extremely proud of her. I absolutely love it. One of my favorite things that I have ever made and may ever make. So I'm so very proud of this. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Mwah. Bye!